Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to go through all of the Divination cards that were added to the game in 3.16, give you an idea of what's known about where they drop. For some of them we're pretty certain we know exactly where they drop, for some we're not so sure yet, and for some we've got no idea. This might help you give some thought as to things you might want to choose to farm for, although just be aware that anything that gives a genuinely rare reward, the Divination card for it will also be quite rare. So first up was the Stone Perfected. This was not announced prior to the league start, and it gives you a Primordial Jewel. So Primordial Might, Primordial Eminence, or Primordial Harmony, and it will be either 1 or 2 Implicit Corrupted. We don't yet know, no one's done a large-scale turn-in of these, sufficient to work out whether 1 Implicit Corrupted or 2 Implicit Corrupted ones are more common. A Primordial Might is the rarest of the Primordial Jewels and quite a bit more expensive than the others. Because it's the rarest, usually a Divination card like this will respect that rarity, and so you'll be much more likely to get the more common Primordial Jewels than you will be to get Primordial Might. I had a couple of reports of this dropping. One of them was from drops in Grotto, the other one was drops in Flooded Mine. In all cases, the maps in question were influenced. We're not sure whether this is a coincidence, because obviously influenced maps have more monsters on them and so are more likely to drop things, and because it's League Start, a large percentage of the maps you do at League Start do tend to be influenced as well. So for that reason, we haven't yet been able to rule out whether it is related to influence mobs or not. Definitely seems to be able to drop in Grotto and Flooded Mine. No concept yet as to how rare this card might be. I would expect that you'd get one card every few maps if you were running maps that were Elk and Go, and maybe a little bit more than that if you were running them a bit more juiced, but that's just my speculation. We don't actually know this yet. Next up is Chasing Risk. This was spoiled before the league started, and it grants you a Synthesis unique. Basically, nothing is known about this. We don't know where it drops, we've got no leads on it, and as a result, it's entirely speculative where it might come from. Desperate Crusade is the next one, which was not announced prior to league start. This grants a Prism Guardian, and despite the fact that the mana reservation changes were an overall net nerf to the Prism Guardian unique, it's still arguably one of the very most powerful unique items in the game. It's a unique shield, it's tier 2 rarity, which means the same rarity as Chevron's Wrappings, and the only report I've had of this is that it drops in Basilica, but as for exact details, not sure. Given that it's a set of 3 for an item that's the same rarity as Chevron's Wrappings, you could expect that this would be a fairly rare Divination card. You might get one every 25 maps or so, and you'll just have to experiment with that to find out. Maybe there were other conditions as well. All we know is that there's been one reported drop from Basilica. Next is Disdain, and we know where this one drops, because it drops a lot. If you have run Maven regional invitations, you have almost certainly found this card, especially if you run a few of them. So when I say regional invitations, I mean either the 3, 4, 5, 6, or 10-way boss fights. They tend to drop this card like candy. I've also additionally had reports of it dropping from Maven Uncharted invitations as well. So that means things like Maven's Invitation the Formed, Maven's Invitation the Hidden. They seem to be able to drop this as well. So basically anything in the Maven's Crucible. It remains to be seen whether it also drops from the Maven fight in the absence of Mercy and Empathy. Getting Delirium Mobs is always something you are happy to see, and this card drops a lot. I've basically self-farmed a set by the time I have earned 24 Maven points in this league, so I'm nowhere near completed with the 52 points that are available, nor have I repeated any of the encounters yet. Next is Eternal Bonds. Every single person, I've traded with a few people to get this card, every single person that has sold it to me reported getting it in heist. The background, the image that we've got there, everything sort of screams that this is heist blueprints. However, that is not known. So it is speculative only. No one is absolutely certain that it drops in heist blueprints. It's just what it looks like. This grants a Replica Cortex, which is a pretty substantial reward, especially once there's a larger percentage of the player base are at the point where they feel confident to make an attempt at the Feared. At that point, you will start to see a lot more interest in this card. That said, we still don't know for certain that it drops where we think it might. Guardian's Challenge is next, and this one actually GGG sort of spoiled the location for us today in the 3.16.0.b for Bravo patch notes. They confirmed that there's been a bug with this when it appears in Zana's window. So Zana will sell this Divination card to you. Not sure what it sells for because it hasn't appeared for me, and when it was appearing prior to 3.16.0b, it was not able to be purchased. It just had a placeholder price that was blank, but it was an unpayable blank, so it wasn't a freebie, it was something that you just couldn't pay the price for. and so as a result, that didn't really exist in the league until now. Anyways, that should be available soon, or probably actually available now, and they'll start appearing in the league. So basically, every time that you reset Zana's shop, you have a chance of getting this. There might be a minimum atlas completion status in order to get it, and that would probably be fairly high. Like, you might need to have done 100 different maps or something in order to be able to have this appear in the shop, and then presumably it might actually appear a fair bit. The Aspirant is the next Divination card. This was the very first teaser that was given for the 3.16 League. So this gives you a magic item, which is item level 80, or at least 80 if you're using a character that's character level 80 or higher to turn it in. This will be an influenced item that will have one influenced elevated mod on it. So this could be, for instance, if you get fairly lucky, it could be the elevated version of the Crusader mod that makes dead enemies explode on a chess piece. And if you get pretty unlucky, it could be the elevated version of socketed gems as supported by increased item rarity on a chest piece. So this is going to be a really popular Divination card. It'll be quite expensive once all the dust settles on it. We don't have any leads on where this drops, except just from the art, which sort of implies that it might drop from Harvest Enriched Labs, but that is purely speculative. The catch comes next. There's not many of this card in existence at the moment, only a few dozen, and to the best of my knowledge, none of them have been turned in, because there are no item level 99 fishing rods on the trade market at all in the current league. However, the catch is something we've got no idea where it might drop. It's a massive set, 18 cards, and it's a bit of a meme item because you get a fishing rod, which is the weakest thing you can equip in your weapon slot, and it will have a powerful incubator on it. And because it's item level 99, that incubator will go for ages and ages. This one was spoiled before the league. It's going to be a lot of fun when people start turning it in and, you know, running this extra little quest to carry out the catch event on it. But that'll be, yeah, something that's a bit of a game that comes up. We don't know where it drops yet, and we've got no leads. The Forgotten Treasure is next. I did a whole video on this where I just turned in a few sets of this. It has a modest chance of getting you a Headhunter, although the vast majority of people will not see a Headhunter from it. I've had multiple reports of this dropping, Temple Map and Stagnation Map being the two. It might be tied to Invasion bosses, as Invasion bosses can spawn in both of those maps, or it might be something entirely different, and further investigation is required. The Fox in the Brambles gives you a Bramble Jack, which is 2 implicit Crangled, and it's a large set of 7. This drops in the Gardens map and seems to be uncommon but not truly rare. So this is something that if you want a bit of a meme item, you can definitely farm for yourself, or at least pick up in trade, because no one really seems to want this card very much, and so it's quite accessible to get. It's also kind of good in the Scourge League, where you can more easily, if you do get good corruptions on it, it's not going to cost you the earth in order to make it a 6 link. Prince of Darkness is next, and this is for an Elegant Hubris. Absolutely no leads on where this might drop. Everyone that I contacted about it got theirs from a stack deck. And there's been a bit of speculation from the artwork and from the quote on it that it might be Olroth, one of the Expedition League bosses, but that's just speculation and nothing more. The Rabbit's Foot is the next Divination card that was added. This was not spoiled beforehand, and it's a bit of a joke card in a lot of ways. It's a set of 8 for 10 of the same Incursion Vial. So this is kind of cool trophy in trade leagues, but it's going to be one of those Divination card sets that if you get 10 of the same vial, it's actually very difficult to make full use of those vials, because you then need to get 10 different sacrifice rooms in order to upgrade 10 items. So this is going to be something for trade leagues exclusively, and we have no idea where this might drop at all, and also we have no idea on the relative weighting of the Incursion Vials you can get from it. The Scout is next. This is a set of 8 cards for 7 Exalted Orbs. So each one of these is almost an Exalt if you get it. And this has been reported as dropping from Expedition Encounters, but within a tropical island map. So whether it's the Expedition Encounters that matter, whether it's a tropical island that matters, we're not sure on that, but that's definitely somewhere that it has dropped. Lastly, there's Treasures of the Vaal. This grants a Vaal Jewel to Implicit Corrupted. Now, my reading of this, and I could be wrong on this, is that it could give you any of the jewels that drop from the temple, upgraded or not upgraded, and with 2 implicit corruption on it. But I could very much be wrong on that. It could be that there's a whole bunch of other jewels that have got a tag of Vaal on them, And so we're going to have to experiment with this card. Someone's going to need to do a couple of big turn-ins of it and try and get a bit of a sense of what items can drop and maybe some information on their relative weighting. However, there is absolutely nothing known about where this drops. The artwork can indicate a number of different possibilities, really. Some sort of looks like it could be Sunken City, but also some people suspect that it could be some of the specific expedition tile sets from logbooks, and all of that is up in the air. We're just going to have to wait until people catch these on video. So if you have this drop, especially if it drops for you while you're streaming the game or recording your gameplay, definitely let me know so that we can track all of this information. Anyways, that's the new Divination cards. So in terms of valuable ones, we've got the Scout will definitely be expensive and will remain expensive all league. I think the Forgotten Treasure will get somewhat expensive, like not super expensive, but later in the league as people have got more and more currency to gamble, that'll get expensive. The Aspirant will be expensive because it's inherently very powerful for Awakener Orb crafting. And then the Divination card Eternal Bonds will also be expensive throughout the league. Hopefully that's been useful, but may your Val Orbs have interesting results, and I'll see you around.